Welcome everyone to the Brand Awards from PricePlow of 2020. I'm joined here by Mike Roberto, CEO of PricePlow, and Heather Jacques, our digital content manager. You're gonna hear that intro a lot if you're watching all these videos. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the big award. We're gonna start from the top here, Brand of the Year. It's been a wild 2020, and I think the way that we're gonna set this up is we're going to present the nominees. We're gonna talk a little bit about each one, and then I guess from there we will kind of say what each one of us is going to think for the number one, and we'll decide from there. So, Mike, you want to read off the nominees for today?
Yeah, definitely. And just, for anyone joining us, we did just do a video recapping the year. So if you want a little background, you can click back on that on YouTube and Instagram and all that. So the nominees for Brand of the Year, they're not in alphabetical order. Let's put them in alphabetical order. First one is Alphaline. Number 2 is Axe Sledge. Number 3 is Core Nutritionals. Number 4 is Glaxon. Number 5 is Ghost Lifestyle. And number 6 is Revive MD. So
awesome couple companies there.
Yeah, and everyone, a lot of people approach this year in many different ways. Some of them are more established than others. I think one consistent thing is that we like to see product releases. You can't, it's tough to be the brand of the year without at least throwing out a lot of new flavors and stuff. And so these were brands that were very, very busy. And I think, as I mentioned in the previous video, the brands that did best this year were the ones that were positioned and ready to rock and roll regardless of what happened. And the ones that had great, and you mentioned the ones that had great connection to their communities and their consumers, and most of them to retailers and everything that were already set. Like, this wasn't the year to go through some insane rebrand, and it wasn't a year to have turnover and stuff like that. And so you're going to see, if we go to if you go to PricePlow.com/core-nutritionals, for instance, there's a news link, and you can just look at all the releases that were done. And so these brands were busy, and there's a lot of content that we covered on them, and it's kind of fun looking at all the stuff they put out. And so, I'm not sure how would you want to do this exactly, but these are the ones that were definitely busy. They were ready, they were positioned, and they did great against all odds.
Well, so you mentioned that the brands here were very busy and they were set. And that, for me, I want to give 2 honorable mentions here, 2 that had to be in this list because they had kick-ass years, totally impressed us, but they weren't quite brand of the year yet. I think, in my opinion, and I want to put that out there, 2 that we could not have done this list without, but aren't quite ready for the title, were Alphaline and Glaxon. Had to give it to them, but Alphaline was going through a bit of a rebrand this year.
Right.
First half of the year, they had some incredible launches. And it's funny because I had a story where someone asked me about Alphaline this year, and I was like, yeah, they had a great year, but I don't really think they're brand of the year, but they did have some great launches. And as I started talking through the launches, Jordan actually texted me, he was like, I don't think you realized what you were saying until you finished saying it. Because I listed off a bunch of launches, and they kicked ass this year. Their gut launch, their armor launch, and they had a whole bunch of rebrands. I just did their proteins this week. They had some awesome stuff, but they rebranded towards their Superhuman brand. And I think, sorry.
I was gonna say, I think that totally makes sense for them.
Yes.
But also, I think if we pick brand of the year, let's just say, for example, in July, I think Alphaline would have almost been because they started out hot, right off the bat. It was Superhuman Burn. It was bringing new ingredients to the market, like Mito Burn, stuff like that. And like you said, even moving into their health products. I remember people ask me all the time what's a good gut health supplement. Superhuman Armor Superhuman Gut, my bad. I almost recommend all the time. So I was a really big fan of all the releases. And if you do look back on the year, I was doing a blog for them almost a couple times a month, every month, whether it was a flavor or a product, but mainly it was new products. And I think that was really cool to see. They even brought Hydro Prime to the market with Superhuman Pump. So I know they went through a rebrand the half of the year, but the first half they were going hard.
100,
I think.
Yeah, 100%. If I actually had them as a lock for my brand of the year, but I got to be honest, it's tough to give Alphaline a brand of the year when they're not branding Alphaline. They're actually branding Superhuman. And I agree with that. But the switch throughout the middle of the year is okay, yeah, as of the mid-year, I had them locked in. And but with the switch to Superhuman, it's just a little bit of a turnover period, which is one, like I said, I agree with. And I agree with everything else, but yeah, I can't, in my heart of hearts, give Alphaline brand of the year when they are switching over to superhuman mode. And yeah, next year might be a fun one with them though.
Right. And so I guess this is a good point to kind of define the criteria for, well, we don't have a rubric system or an algorithm or anything, but brand of the year does not just go to the brand with the most launches, right? In 2019, we had this discussion over whether or not NutriBio launching, what was it, 87 SKUs in 52 weeks. Like, is that brand of the year? No, that might be launches of the year. I mean, and I'm not taking anything away from the time and work that goes into formulating R&D, labeling, everything like that. That's incredibly hard. I've done it. I know how that is, but that's not what brand of the year is. Brand of the year is, to us at least, impact on the entire brand, actual sales, actual, like Joshua Shaw had a great point about his, and I don't want to give away who he gave it to, but who's going to remember the moves that were made this year for a long time forward, right? When you say, like, when you look at like the World Championship of supplements, 2019, 2020, whatever, who's going to talk about that brand 2020? And Alphaline killed it this year, especially in the first half, but the second half was definitely more of a housekeeping 6 months, right? They definitely released a few things. Superhuman Protein is incredible. I'm not taking anything away from that, but they were kind of putting their cards in order. I know that for the last 2 weeks, Jordan's been off of social media. He came up for a breath yesterday to talk to me and told me that they have completely changed around the corporate structure of their company. They've brought in a media agency for their content going forward, the paid media. And 2021, I'm very excited to see what they do. And I feel like a bit of a jerk because I said that in 2019 for 2020 with Alphaline. You can go back and watch the video. I'm going to eat my words on that. But 2021, I'll say it again, I'm really excited for Alphaline. I want to totally congratulate them for everything they did, but they're not quite brand of the year for 2020. They didn't have a consistent impact schedule. They didn't have consistent branding throughout the year, and that's not a bad thing. It's just really setting up for a good next year. So I hope you guys agree with all that.
Yep, I agree.
So on the other hand, the other honorable mention here, which if they were giving me a real run for my money and they're kind of making me sweat on it, was Glaxon's 2020. And Mike and I staked our claim last year. We were the first to say, and I'm going to say this until Glaxon loses their momentum. We said in 2020, they're the brand to watch, and no one wanted to listen to us. Everyone was saying that brand spikes their stuff. There's no way it's real. They don't know what they're doing. They're copying ghosts and Cellular. They talked all that trash. And guess what? All the other content creators and reviewers are loving Glaxon now. We called it in 2019, and they did an incredible job this year. They shook things up. And when we talk about breakout branding, it's a little bit more of an opportunity to talk about really what they did. But I at least wanted to give them a nod for brand of the year because I know for a fact these other top brands are watching Glaxon like, oh, shit. So definitely want to give them a nod here, yeah, but they're not quite ready.
I don't know if you can be brand of the year if you don't have a protein yet, but I agree. But I'm not even going to say I called it. I'm going to say you called it. You say we, and that's very nice. It was Ben who called it. So let's the industry's bouncer is what we call Ben. So that was all you, and I had not much to argue with on that one. So you were right. You made a convincing argument, and it wasn't very long before everyone was convinced that this brand was the one to watch. But not yet brand of the year. They will probably make a big run at it though.
Yeah, for sure. So that leaves us with, in alphabetical order, because that matters to Mike, Axe Sledge, Core, Ghost, and Revive. These are four, is that four? Yeah. 4 brands that really, I loved everything they did this year. We had a front row seat for everything, obviously, because we are affiliated with all these brands. We're very excited and happy to have that opportunity. What are your guys' thoughts here? I'll give you guys some room to talk since I've spoken so much.
Well, you can't release whiskey and cola and not be mentioned in this list. So that alone gets you. I'm just smiling here. I just love everything Axe Sledge does. And so I'd have to go through the news listing a little bit. I just don't think industry impact, like whiskey cola, it's fun. They brought fun and joy to a year that needed it. But yeah, like looking back, are we going to say, oh, all that, whiskey cola changed the industry? No, it didn't. It wasn't that impactful, but it was awesome. So they have the, my mind's blanking, the meal replacement.
I was going to bring that up. Homemade.
I was thinking firm fat. That's a protein, but yeah.
Yeah. Homemade, they came out with a actual quality whole foods meal replacement, which for a couple of years now, there's been a bit of controversy here, and I'm saving PricePlow from a letter getting sent to us for not saying much, but there's been some controversy over whether or not you can really have a whole foods protein that actually delivers a beneficial amino acid content. And they came out, and yes, they used whey in it, but I consider whey to be a whole food from milk. It's an incredibly a great tasting product that also delivers very clean quality calories. And I think in 2020, that was a huge claim for them. If you want to talk about different boxes to check on a rubric, I think they went really, really heavy on the flavor releases, the community growing. I spoke on our story the other day that anytime I wear an Axe Sledge or a demo crew or an All-American Roughneck shirt to a gym, someone walks up and says something to me. You know, it may be a little bit loaded because I don't fit in ghost clothes, and I think it probably would help with that too. But like Seth Rossi, like just pulls something out of like blue collar Americans that like no one else really capitalizes on, and it's commendable.
And if you could wear that shirt and get comments, that puts you in the running for brand of the year.
Absolutely,
that's simple. The branding is doing that. So, yeah, I would. It's greedy and selfish. I want to see more from them, if at all possible. So, like, because everything they do is fun. The other one is Core Nutritionals, and this is one where they're going to be discussing everything like protein flavor, pre-workout of the year. Like they're going to be in so many of these different videos, and that's because they did so much. Like we talked about NutriBio last year doing lots of stuff, lots of launches. That seems to be Core this year, and they just hard charged it, and it was a very, very, very busy year. So I don't think I'm going to give it to Core in terms of brand of the year, but they're going to be discussed in every single one of these videos. So not everyone, but like nearly everyone. So that says something, I think. And so like product lines, they just have all these product lines. I just want to see that brand mission a little bit more, I guess, than we've seen. Because the product line is definitely there.
Yeah, you got to give it to Core. They not only released like a bajillion SKUs this year, like, and like let's call for what it is. They're playing the game on different flavors being a second SKU, and then like balls as well as the packs, and like they definitely play up the SKU amount by all the different variations. But let's not take that away from the fact that they did an incredible amount of R&D, flavoring, formulation, ideation, like all of that stuff, while also rebranding the whole thing in a pretty attractive packaging. You know, there's matte layers, there's reflective layers, there's some bump mapping to it, tactile response. It feels good, it looks good, and it's a very unisex, like mainstream looking product. Like I know a lot of women that take Core, which is, I think that's kind of important. It's not just your normal hardcore packaging. They did a good job of making it appeal to the masses. And I appreciate Doug's aggressiveness with his content. I enjoy watching his Ask the Boss podcast. I enjoy what they do. I got to meet them earlier this year, and this is our first year working with them. It's a great honor to be a part of them. But I think like if we're going to talk about the weak parts of their year, they did a lot in terms of just blowing up the industry with tons of new products, but there's not a lot of like substance to the community and the actual brand mission, like you brought up, Mike. Love the products. I think that they're going to be in pretty much every category that we talk about today, but I don't get stopped in public when I wear the Core shirts. You know, like there's not a lot of brand unity to it, I guess I would say, like, or brand awareness, I would say maybe. Not to take away from what they do, it's just that part of it is a little bit weaker. And I think that we talk a lot about like checking boxes across the board. You got to check every single box if you're going to be brand of the year, in my opinion. So absolutely love the releases that they did this year. Can't take anything away from all of that in the rebrand, but there's some other areas that I think they might have shined a little bit higher. And if they had the right community builders or marketing people in or something like that, I'm not really sure. I also don't know if also Doug's spread between the Nutrition Corners, Arms Race Nutrition, Miracle Labs, America Energy, and Core Nutritionals. It's a lot of different stuff to be doing at the same time.
Yeah, that's
I agree with that. I think it was quite impressive though, like we mentioned, how much products they put out, and even me starting to take more Core products, I was really impressed with like their formulas, their flavors. all the new packaging, all of that stuff. I know Core has always been valued as a high quality company, you know, transparent labels, all of that stuff. So I really appreciate what they did this year and how they just kept the ball rolling. Honestly, one of my favorite launches of the year probably was Core Balls. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's a really cool functional food. I think they did a really fun spin on it. Like, you know, but I'm excited to see them, what they'll do next year, and see how they just either keep going or, you know, like you said, build that more community aspect, and just that social awareness, I think, would be really cool.
Yeah, you can't release Core Balls and not get mentioned in this video. So.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to, like, well, I think I mentioned so I was at like the beta testing for the balls, but I loved the balls even when they launched. Fury, if we had named pre-workout in the first quarter of the year, it would have been Core Fury, like bar none. You know, it was, there was no competition to Fury at the beginning of this year. It was definitely my favorite pre-workout. There was some more competition that came out later in the year, but we'll talk about that when we get to pre-workouts. Protein, I am addicted to their Post. I don't know any other protein that I've ever drank as much of as Core Post. If I didn't like carbs as much, it'd be like the Pro, or if I needed more of an MRP, it'd be the MRP. But their proteins for this year were like just insane. Quality, flavor, experience. Every single category we're going to talk about today, they're in some form or other.
But yeah, they're not brand of the year. They're like kick-ass product launches of the year or something like that. You know, it's
maybe,
something needs to come together a little bit more. But yeah, obviously we're stoked on Core.
Yeah, yeah. Revive has been an absolute, like, as someone who preaches eating real food and not like being the supplement review guy that doesn't like to push supplements all the time, Revive just got me excited this year because they've been able to bring in health and quality of life and make, I mean, like, let's be really straight about this. They've made enough money that they can sponsor Chris Bumstead and Hathor Bjornsson. Those are not tiny partnerships. They're clearly doing very well. Dom has like 17 exotic cars parked out in front of his house. Like Revive has been able to crack the code and create, I mean, it's a lot of content. Like, and these guys absolutely kill it at content. They're constantly creating new videos, new photos, and driving that to the consumer. But Revive has cracked the code and been able to put a health supplement brand. They don't have a pre-workout at all, and they're in our brand of the year. That has to say something.
Exactly. And
I think one thing that Revive did this year that really, obviously, besides the phenomenal products they put out, was getting BSCG certified so that they could, you know, be able to, now we can say, like, if someone's an athlete and they say, hey, who's a company that I can trust, that I can just take their products, not, you know, worry about cross-contamination, not worry about failing a drug test, all of that stuff. It's like, well, you know, there's only a few brands that do that overall. And I think it was really cool to see them take that money. Like you said, I know they could go buy whatever, but like take it and really invest into something that's going to help grow their company. And like you said, they sponsor some big athletes. They sponsor Chris Bumstead, they sponsor Hathor, they sponsor some UFC fighters like Stipe. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but they're definitely getting more involved into the whole sports setting as far as, you know, I'm really excited to see where they go, you know, next year with athletes, because, you know, you're starting to see them on ESPN, you're starting to see them on these major platforms. And it's just cool because I think we've talked about this when I was writing an article about Revive. Like, they've only started like 2 years ago. Like, it hasn't been that long. They've just really taken this. They've made health and wellness like very cool, and like just, I think just like making sure people prioritize that over, well, what's my next high stimulant pre-workout, something like that, you know?
Right, and you want to talk about impact. Everything they're doing, everyone's copying now. Oh, I like, they have this incredible lipid formula, incredible kidney formula, and now everyone's like, oh, I want a health and wellness line. Look how good they're doing. Well, Revive is doing it because they had athletes who actually had needs. They didn't want to take 3,000 capsules to get their stuff done. Revive put it into like one bombastic, awesome kidney or lipid formula, whatever it may be, and now everyone's copying them. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to come out with a good health supplement, but it's like Revive did it for a very good reason, not just to make money. And now everyone's copying them. So you want to talk impact, that's a company that made an impact because they have shown health and wellness to be cool. They're educating people, and everyone's starting to copy it. And honestly, I learned a ton of stuff too, like in the low carb community where I hang out with. A lot of people are like, oh, you can't naturally, you know, raise HDL cholesterol with a drug or a supplement. You can with a drug, and people end up dying more. And it's a long story in these studies. And I'm like, well, actually, here's what I learned from our Revive lipid post is that artichoke extract actually does help raise HDL cholesterol. And obviously you want to use diet, blah, blah, blah. But but it's like I've learned so much from these incredible supplements they're putting together, and they are using incredible doses. And like I said, everyone's now copying it. And there's a lot of really cool stuff out there that people don't realize, and Revive put it together. So kudos for them. But I guess I already said it once. I got to say it again. Can you be brand of the year without a protein powder?
I think you can. I don't think protein's that important in terms of branding, but then that's a whole different discussion. For me, it was awesome to see Revive do the thing, and I think they're just getting warmed up. I think 2021, we should be a little bit afraid for them coming in really hot. I don't know if brand of the year in terms of impact is going to be for Revive. I think like they did a really cool thing, and you have to give that to them. But in terms of actual brand of the year, it's tough to give it to the health supplements brand because they didn't expand this industry. They just brought health supplements up to the face of everyone, which I love, and I'm here for it. And it's really funny because Mike and I hear all the time on intro calls with companies, we're going to be the next Redcon, we're going to be the next Ghost. And this year, we started hearing our health supplements are a lot like Revives. Like anytime you have like up and coming brands mentioning you as a descriptor or comparison or analogy or whatever, I think you've probably made it. And Revive made it this year. I couldn't be more proud of them. And they actually, every year I have like my really heated video where I get heated. And Revive was the one this year with the BSCG where I told everyone I'm tired of hearing them talk about NutriCap because don't care where Revive is manufactured because they have third-party analysis. So I have to commend them for getting me that fired up. But I don't think they're quite brand of the year yet. I think we're probably all in agreement there.
It's tough because the one we have to talk about is kind of the runaway choice at this point.
Yeah, I know every CEO that's watching this video right now knows where we're going next, and they're already getting pissed. There's already comments actually in typing. But I'm not a big basketball fan. When you talk about, like, what is it, Jordan 96, 97, right? Like, Ghost had that in 1920. 19 was like a huge layup for them. They launched Burn, a lot of really cool stuff. Chips Ahoy came out. And it was like, I remember I'm pretty sure Mike and I said, like, verbatim last year, like, how do they top this in 2020? And Dan keeps saying it's better to be lucky than good, but damn, they were lucky this year with the stuff that they had planned. And I can tell you for a fact, they had Gamer, Greens, and Glow planned. I talked to him at the supply side west of last year. Couldn't have been a better year for all of that to launch. And in 2020, they had probably the most dominant sports nutrition year in terms of just like taking over and destroying every single box that you can check across the entire industry. Like you guys can, I talk about Ghost way too much, so I don't want to hear you guys say it, but I have a little bit of a checklist of things that I put down in terms of what they did in 2020, and it makes it really difficult. And I absolutely would love to hear anyone's like testimony of why they think they had a better year than Ghost, but I think it'd be very difficult to top the 2020 year that Ghost had.
Yeah, same thing. You don't
Well,
have a
I just want to say
people talking about Ghost, so
yeah,
they did it again. Heather, go on. Sorry.
I just want to say in general what I appreciate most about Ghost as a brand. And I told this to I think Dan yesterday, and I've told him to him before, but what Ghost does on every level, whether it's the formula, the packaging, the marketing, you know, the licensed flavor collabs. I mean, like, you can't, it's hilarious when people ask us, hey, does Ghost taste good? It's like, I mean, whatever it says in the labels, it's going to taste like. I can almost guarantee that. But what I appreciate most about them is that maybe to us, we appreciate the full transparency on the protein panel, but maybe general consumer appreciates the flavor collabs with Nutter Butter and Chips Ahoy. Like, it doesn't, like, Ghost focuses on every small little detail for the consumer experience. And I think that's one thing. And not only that, but they focus on their community, giving back, all of those things. Like, they tick all the boxes, like Ben said. And that's what's, you know, before I even started with PricePlow, I've been following Ghost for a long time. And I really like to see how they just, not only they expanded their line, but they just, like, I mean, they just, every little detail they focus on. And I think they're one of the brands that just, like, details matter. And whether there's a protein scoop on the top of your lid, whether it's not like a struggle to get the friggin', you know, seal off or something like that, like the most minor things. And obviously they make quality formulas, which is something we appreciate. They, you know, they use new different ingredients. And then they let you see behind the brand as far as their YouTube channel and let you see their struggles and they listen to customer feedback. I just think across the board, it's really, they just balance everything so well. That's just why I want to say in general about them. Not that they've only done that this year. It's just like, this is what they've always done. And I don't believe that Yoast is going to put out something if they can't do it right. And I think that's one thing that really stands out to me.
Yeah, you talk about checking the boxes across the board. I don't think there's anyone that is as meticulous in checking every single box and having all of the right people in the right places. When you have a team like Ryan Hughes on the branding side and Dan on the formula and marketing side, like it's hard to find anyone else who's the perfect yin yang to attack every side of it. The team that they've put together, I think they hired just under 20 people this year, and most into like management leadership roles. They established a board this year. They opened their Vegas facility, so they have next day delivery to both coasts, which is something that a lot of brands don't have. They started their joint venture with ABEV, which, does anyone know any other sports nutrition companies that has a joint venture with Anheuser-Busch? Just that itself is like, we're elevating our industry to a more level in legitimacy.
Once we learn about
Ghost, they're even doing like
over the top for me.
So
they're even doing like studies and research with like New Live Science, right? That will hopefully come out next year or something like that.
Who else is funding actual human clinicals data, right? Launched multiple new licenses like Nutter Butter, Bubblicious. I think they launched 63 SKUs during COVID and civil unrest, while, like I said, working in an area where there were daily riots, there were helicopters from the police, there were people tagging their own building, and they didn't skip one episode of their Behind the Brands, right? Where there are other brands that say that they're brand of the year and they can't even produce content not living in that kind of area.
Well, to be fair, I might have to subtract a point for running your business in a crime-infested city, but that's their choice.
Well, Dan's moving to Vegas.
There you go, at least a little more free.
Yeah, when we talk numbers a little bit, they grew double digits top line and over that in the bottom line. And we're talking about big numbers. It's not a super public thing. I'm not going to put out the actual sales numbers, but they grew double digits, which is a pretty impressive thing when you're already at the level that everyone sees Ghost as, like, already being a huge company. You're talking about actual numbers of sales. We can move backwards. We can work backwards off of what they've published. 83,000 trees were planted during the Earth Day thing. So that's between Earth Day and December. That's up until the first week of December. They planted 83,000 trees, which means that there were 83,000 bottles of greens sold, which means that every single one of those bottles is $44.99. If you do the math on what that is, that's just one SKU. And I did ask Dan, greens comes behind Glow, Gamer, both of the aminos, Legend, Pump, Vegan, and Whey. So if that's that far back on their sales and they sold 83,000 units in that amount of months, let's do the math on the rest of it, right? Let's leave it for everyone to kind of figure it in their heads. But Ghost is checking every single box across. And not only that, during this whole time of civil unrest, they launched Gamer. They became a Twitch partner, which is not easy to do. And they brought us back to our nostalgia of our kid time. I got to play a ton with them online stream, and even we got to connect with our consumers better as a result of them bringing back to video games. So overall, I think it's...
and they even partnered with Axe Sledge.
Yeah, Axe Sledge.
As well, for gaming, on the gaming side. And that was pretty huge. I mean, you haven't really seen a brand, well, I'm not a gamer, so I don't know all the gaming industry news, but that was really big for them, I know. And I know there's going to be some really cool collabs in the future coming from that side of
the we had more than one brand complain about the amount of love that we give to Ghost for the things that they do, but when you stack it up and you actually put it down on paper and you quantify it or attempts to quantify it as much as you can, it's hard to challenge that at all. And I will say that I'd welcome anyone to sit down and try to challenge it and give us some sort of quantitative reason. But from our perspective, it's pretty hard to challenge what these guys did this year, and I have to commend them. For me, they are my brand of the year, and I have to say that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think not only, like you said, quantitative, not only did they launch so many products, have great sales, all of that stuff, but the impact is really what makes me think that they're brand of the year, just because of, like you said, like Mike said, you cannot get on a call, listen to a podcast. I don't even know how many times on the Sirs podcast alone I heard Ghost get brought up. Even people who do not like Ghost respect what they do. And I think, not everyone's going to like you, but if you respect what they're doing for the space, if there's brands trying to copy you all left and right, I think that is the impact they're bringing to the industry is hard to argue with, to be honest. So.
I would like to travel to an alternate universe where GNC did not partner with the Ghost and see what the numbers look like there, because I can guarantee you they'd be like about 1/20th of the numbers or whatever. Like, it just seems like Ghost has carried some of their partners, and And I don't know the numbers and everything.
But well, let's also say that they also did all of these things during GNC's bankruptcy.
Right.
And one thing that I can say is that their D2C is pacing GNC. Like, they did. You want to talk about people having their things in place? Your main partnership goes bankrupt. Everyone, how many comments did we see this year, Heather, of GNC's going bankrupt, Ghost is going out of business?
Oh yeah.
Like,
there's so many.
No sense. Yeah.
I think they know what they're doing.
One small surprise, and obviously, like, it's Legend and all these other products are the mainstays in the way. Our Ghost Globe blog post that Heather wrote gets a surprisingly high amount of traffic. So don't sleep on Glow. A lot of people, I mean, you guys know, but there's a lot of people out there looking for that stuff. And
I think that was one of the products that surprised me the most on how well it was received by both men and women.
Yeah.
And I know, like, obviously you look at the product, it's a little bit more feminine looking. It's, obviously they're going to do some collabs with their female athletes and stuff, but it's not just for females. And I think it was really cool for Dan and Ryan, or just Ghost in general, to take some really cool ingredients that maybe haven't been used yet, or still under, like from New Live Science, they use Astrion, they use Cetria, they use these cool ingredients and put it in a product that was just like, I don't know, Ghost made like boring products like cool. Like, who sells out of a multivitamin? I don't know. I just think they really, I don't know what they do, but they just really make products stand out.
Our system has so many hair, skin, and nails formula, products from all these other, the main brands like a Nature's Way or whatever, and they all have like whatever biotin and this and that, and like it's the same stuff over and over. And Ghost is like, how about we come out with a huge formula that it's in a powder, it tastes great, and it actually has efficacious doses of things that no one else is using, and it kills. And that's what they do over and over and over. And that's why they get brand of the year, because they keep pushing the envelope and they keep doing things that everyone has to try to copy yet can't. And then you get to see it while tapping. Like, the formula of how to do Ghost is kind of out there at this point. It's there, and no one can do it. And no one can do it in other industries. I'm watching other industries, and no one gets it. We talked about this last year. I finally figured out what Dan and Ryan are doing last year, and no one else. And it's kind of out there, and still people cannot duplicate it in any industry. It blows my mind.
The easiest way to verbalize it, which I found, was that Dan and Ryan created a community that people bought in so wholly that all Dan and Ryan have to do is offer solutions to their problems, right? They were surprised when the multivitamin sold out, but I wasn't, because their brand loves literally anything that Ghost puts out because they've bought in. They're part of the community. They're part of the brand. And I'm sorry, but OptiMen, Megamen, all these other vitamins out there, they're boring, right? So if you love Ghost this much, you're absolutely going to buy in on the Ghost multivitamin, right? You already love everything else that this brand does. What's one more SKU in your cart that month? It totally makes sense. So for all those reasons, I mean, if they keep up this momentum, it's going to be hard to dethrone them, because if you really look at Ghost's offerings, they don't have that many SKUs. Like, someone asked this morning on my Q&A, like, how long are they going to have momentum for? If you really look at what Ghost offers, they haven't really even cracked the surface of what other companies have done. If Ghost had put out the amount of SKUs that Core did this year, I might be worried they're going to run out of room. But they've really held themselves back. I mean, these last 6 months, they worked on the stability for Pump, just so that they can bring Pump back out. If you guys noticed, there hasn't been Pump on shelves in a while because it was horribly clumping. So they're ready for 2021 for their Legend V2, their Size V2, their Pump V2, Energy V2. It's coming out, I think, within the next few weeks. The new SPK Blue Raspberry is coming. They've got a hardcore Legend coming. They have 2 licensed products coming that we can't talk about, but I'm super excited about. They've been hinted at. I'm allowed to say because they've hinted it. Functional foods coming out that's going to disrupt a lot. There are so many different ways that they can go. I'm excited to see, because I even Dan has said that over the next 2 years he thinks Glaxon's going to give them a run for their money, but they've got some serious momentum, and I'm excited to see who can stop them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one thing that Ryan said yesterday on the podcast. They wanted to build a brand that transcended sports nutrition, and I think we've really seen that this year in terms of doing more health stuff, in terms of doing the gamer, and I think we're only going to see that be continued on in the future. So it's hard to say they're just getting started, but they just have so much potential.
Yeah,
and it's really cool to see.
Cool. Well, there you have it. 2020 brand of the year is Ghost Lifestyle.
Congratulations, Dan and Ryan.
Yeah.
We'll have to make one of those little shiny images for them and send it on over.
Cool. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our brand of the year video. If you're listening to the audio feed, you can just keep holding on for a couple more seconds. But if you're watching this on YouTube or Instagram, thanks so much for making this a point in the video. You can check out our blog posts on this that will have accompanying this. And wait for the next video. We're going to be moving into breakout brand of the year.